مشکل کشا پہلے یہ مان لے کہ ہے مشکل کشا پھر دیکھ تیرے واسطے کرتے ہیں کیا پھر دیکھ تیرے واسطے کرتے ہیں کیا ٹل جاتی ہے ہماری تو ساری مصیبتیں ٹل جاتی ہیں ہماری تو ساری مصیبتیں جب ہم کبھی خلوص سے کہتے ہیں یا ٹل جاتی ہیں ہماری تو ساری مصیبتیں جب ہم کبھی خلوص سے کہتے ہیں یا پہلے یہ مان لے کہ ہیں
محمد
ذکر شبیر پہ آتے ہیں برابر آنسو ذکر شبیر پہ آتے ہیں برابر آنسو جب یہ ڈھلتے ہیں تو بن جاتے ہیں گوہر آنسو جب یہ ڈھلتے ہیں تو بن جاتے ہیں گوہر آنسو یہی آنسو تو ہیں اپنے لیے کشتی یہ نجات ہم کو لے جائیں گے ایک دن لب کوثر آنسو ذکر شبیر پہ سلام کے چند شعر. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ ایک مرتبہ صلوات پڑھیں. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. حسین آپ کے ماتم کو زندگی سمجھے. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. بیان جنگ یہ اصغر کا وار کاری تھا. بیان جنگ یہ اصغر کا وار کاری تھا. زمانے والے جسے ایک ہنسی سمجھے. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. جسے یقین ہے آتے ہیں قبر میں حیدر. جسے یقین ہے آتے ہیں قبر میں حیدر. وہ اپنے آپ کو وحشت سے پھر بری سمجھے. وہ اپنے آپ کو وحشت سے پھر بری سمجھے. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. جنہوں نے مقصد کرب و بلا کو سمجھا ہے. جنہوں نے مقصد کرب و بلا کو سمجھا. وہی حیات کے مقصد کو واقعی سمجھے. کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے. علی ولی کی ولایت پہ جو بھی قائم ہے. علی ولی کی ولایت پہ جو بھی قائم. نبی کے آخری خطبے کو بس وہی سمجھے نبی کے آخری خطبے کو بس وہی سمجھے کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے کہا حسین نے پیاسا ہے بے زبان سے کہا حسین نے پیاسا ہے بے زبان خدا را کوئی تو بچے کی تشنگی سمجھے خدا را کوئی تو بچے کی تشنگی سمجھے کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے اسے زمانے کی دولت سے کیا غرض ہو سمر اسے زمانے کی دولت سے کیا غرض ہو سمر جو فرش مجلس سے شبیر قیمتی سمجھے جو فرش مجلس سے شبیر قیمتی سمجھے کرم خدا کا ہوا جس پہ بس وہی سمجھے حسین آپ کے ماتم کو زندگی سمجھے کرم خدا کا ہوا
فاتحہ. ذکر غم حسین سے محفل سجی رہی گل ہو گیا چرا گل ہو گیا چراغ مگر اکبر کے بازیست میں کیا دلکشی رہی لیلا تمام لیلا تمام عمر یہی سوچ اشک غم حسین کا ٹوٹا نہ سلسلہ رومال فاطمہ میں ہمیشہ رومال فاطمہ ہمیشہ نمی رہی ذکر غم حسین سے عرش بری سے کم نہیں جعفر کا آستان خدام ہے یہاں کے ملک ہو کہ خود سیاں خورشید ایک ذرہ ناچیز ہے یہاں اس گھر کی ہے زمین فضیلت کا اس گھر کی ہے زمین فضیلت کا آسمان دریا یہیں سے ابلے ہیں سارے علوم کے سورج نکلتا ہے اسی چوکھٹ کو چوم سورج نکلتا ہے اسی چوکھٹ کو چوم کے وہ گھر جو مرتبے میں فلک بارگاہ تھا نازل جہاں پا ہوتے تھے ہر دم ملائکہ بیت الحرام سے بھی شرف میں جو تھا سوا منصور نے وہ گھر کو بلاخر جلا دیا کیا جانے کیا قلق تھا شیخ آسوام کو یاد آ رہی تھی شام غریبہ امام یاد آ رہی تھی شام غریبہ امام کو آل نبی پاک ایسی مصیبت کا روز ہے رنج و علم کا روز ہے آفت کا روز ہے کاظم کے واسطے یہ اذیت کا روز ہے جعفر ہوئے شہید قیامت کا روز جعفر ہوئے شہید قیامت کا روز ہے جبریل دے رہے ہیں ندا آسمان سے جاتے ہیں آج جعفر صادق جان جاتے ہیں آج جعفر صادق جان انگو زہر دار جو کھایا امام نے ہاتھوں سے دل کو تھامے شیخ آسوام نے اور چھا گیا اندھیرا بھی آنکھوں کے سامنے ہچکی جو موت کے لیے امام انام ہچکی جو موت کے امام انام ہچکی جو موت کے لیے امام انام نے نوحہ سنا یہ سب نے رسالت پناہ کا نائب اٹھا جان سے شہر علاقہ نائب اٹھا جان سے شہر علاقہ نائب اٹھا جان سے شہر علاقہ سن لیجئے دوسری یہ روایت کو بھی ذرا ایک تازیانہ جسم کے تھا زہر تابیاں وہ تازیانہ پشت مطہر پر جب لگا اس زہر کا امام پر فوراً اثر ہوا ایسا ستم ہوا کہ نہ سنبھلے میرے امام عباس کی طرح سے زمین پر گرے عباس کی طرح سے زمین پر گرے روتے ہیں سر کو پیٹ کے سادات خسیر پرتے علم سے ٹکڑے ہیں ہر ایک کا جگر یہ حال ہے کسی کو کسی کی نہیں خبر لاشے کے گرد ٹہرے ہیں اپنے جھکائے سر میت پڑی ہوئی ہے جو باخر کے چین کی یاد آتی ہے رے کو غربت حسین کی یاد آتی ہے رے کو غربت حسین کی یاد آتی ہے رے کو غربت حسین کی چہرے پا چہرہ ملتا تھا ایک چھوٹا سا پسر اور دختران بابا کے غم میں تھی نوحگر دہنی طرف تھے کاظم ذیشان بچشم تر غمگین تھے اہل بیت پیغمبر پا سوچ کر مولا کو پانی پینے نہ ان کو پلایا تھا پیاسا گلا حسین کا ظالم نے کاٹا تھا پیاسا گلا حسین کا ظالم نے کاٹا تھا پیاسا گلا حسین کا ظالم نے کاٹا تھا غم کا یہ واقعہ بھی بڑا دردناک ہے یا قدسیان عرش کا بھی اشتراک ہے سوز علم سے سب کا جگر چاک چاک ہے کاظم کے سر پا یتیمی کی خاک کاظم کے سر پا یتیمی کی خاک کاظم کے سر پا یتیمی کی خاک روتے ہیں یاد کر کے یتیمی سکینہ کی کاظم کے سامنے اسیر سکینہ کاظم کے سامنے اسیر سکینہ کس طرح پرسا باپ کا بیٹی کو تھا ملا بعد حسین آدھا نے خیمہ جلا دیا سیدانیوں کے سر سے بھی چھینی گئی ردا رونے پتا زیانوں کی ہوتی رہی جفا آل نبی پائسا ستم نہ روا ہوا بازو تھے اور کسی کا گلا تھا بندھا بازو تھے اور کسی کا گلا تھا بندھا لائے بقیہ میں جو جنازہ امام کا نوحہ فضا میں گونجتا تھا خاص عام کا تربت میں رکھا لاش ہے جو شاہ نام کا ماتم تھا مومنین میں اس نے ایک نام ماتم تھا مومنین میں اس نے ایک نام ماتم تھا مومنین میں اس نے ایک نام کا جعفر کو بعد دفن غم اس بات کا رہا تھا 3 دن حسین کا لاشا پڑا تھا 3 دن حسین کا لاشا پڑا تھا 3 دن حسین کا لاشا پڑا ہوا
السلام علیکم. First of all, I thank Maulana Bilal Rizvi for accepting our invitation to recite the Majlis tonight, and definitely with a short notice. And please accept our condolence for the loss of your brother, Murtaza Rizvi. We passed away about a couple months ago. So I request everyone to please recite a Surah Fatiha. Salawat Muhammad. Salawat Muhammad wa alim. Couple announcements, Mu'min, inshallah. Tomorrow, this is a message for ladies, announcement for ladies. There's a ladies' majlis of Al-Baqi. It's tomorrow at 2 p.m. So all ladies are humbly requested to please that attend on time. And one more, tomorrow, Dars Quran, inshallah, as usual, will resume from 5:30 in the morning with Namaz-e-Fajr. So please try to attend that. Inshallah, Maulana will be going through the ayat 18 and 20, Surah Hud. So please try to attend that as well. Now I humbly request Maulana Mohammed, he has a message for Baqi, so please I humbly request Maulana to please come and give a message, and then inshallah then Maulana Bilal will recite the majlis. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina wa Mawlana Abil Qasim Mohammed. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, I would like to thank you everyone for everything that you have done for Baqi' and for this very noble cause. As you know, our mission is very peaceful and it's very simple. Just one demand: rebuilding of Al-Baqi'. 100 years already passed, and today 100 years and 7 days. What we should do next? Everybody who has done anything for the sake of Baqi', Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inshallah reward him for his good deed. But 100 years was not the end. I would say it is the beginning. And inshallah, we will do our best to make our voice reach to the world. And there are several things we can do. We should work on the academic part of this issue and let the people know that who are buried in Jannatul Baqi'. Those personalities who are resting in Baqi', those Aimma alayhimu salatu wassalam, their message was for the entire humanity, and their contribution was for the mankind overall, not just for a sect or a group of people, for every human being. But this message, we have to make it reach to everyone. For example, inshallah, after 2 weeks, we'll be having a Islam and Science Fair here, which is an annual event. But since it is attributed to Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam, so I request you to participate in that. Come in good numbers and attend and appreciate the youth who are going to inshallah present the knowledge and wisdom of Imam who is buried in Jannatul Baqi'. So we can relate anything that we can do good academically, and various peaceful ways to make the people know who are these 4 Imams who are buried in Jannatul Baqi'. So please participate in that Islam and Science Fair, which is attributed to Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salatu salam. Also, we have pledged to continue, inshallah, our efforts peacefully, very peacefully, and considering all those rules and laws, international laws and protocols. Inshallah, we have the right to say something, because this is the right of all human beings around the world, right of expression, right of speech, and our demand is nothing but to rebuild Baqi, which was desecrated 100 years and 7 days ago. And we will count every single day, inshallah. And we support anyone who raises his voice for Baqi. Our support is for them, not our. Every human being will support anyone who will raise his voice peacefully for the sake of Baqi. No one is alone in this world. If he's saying Al-Baqi, Al-Baqi, rebuild Al-Baqi, he is not alone. All of us with him, the entire community is with him. All human beings are with them who say Al-Baqi, Al-Baqi, rebuild Al-Baqi. This is my message for the entire world. So nobody should think that anybody who says this and who has said it, that rebuild Al-Baqi, he is alone. He is not alone. Inshallah. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you, Maulana Bilal Rizvi Sahab, for accepting this invitation. Actually, you know that, mashallah, in Ramadan, we had a very successful second year of youth programs that the youth had organized, majalis, the boys and girls both, by themselves, starting from Marsiya to Nauha. And good speeches and majalis, mashallah, by youth, that this really surprised everyone by their very good potential and the skills that they have. Alhamdulillah, our youth. So originally the plan was that they should have their own majlis, inshallah, and every time we have a majlis here in Urdu, they will be having a majlis for themselves, or the majlis should be, the whole majlis should be in English, because our focus, is always youth. So for that reason, since Maulana was here, so we requested him to recite the majlis in English, and the youth will sit in this majlis. All the youth, mashallah, I can see all the youth are sitting, mashallah, with the youth, every age group of youth, mashallah, here are sitting, mashallah, and in the chairs are also very good youth, mashallah, we can see them. So, you see this. This is for the youth. And we should understand that whatever we do, the focus is what? Youth. And we have to just plan always for them, anything for them, right? Any sacrifice from us is for our youth, inshallah. And we see, mashallah, everybody is here, alhamdulillah. And I thank Maulana. I don't know if you have anything else to say. Sure.
Thank you very much. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One very important announcement. Hadi School Leadership Gala dinner night, that's going to be inshallah Friday, May 19th. Please try to attend that. Maulana Hujjatul Islam Dr. Mehdi Hazari will be keynote speaker in that one. It's an exciting night of students presentation. Plus, this really is a community event and a way to give back to the Islamic school that are extension of our tarbiyat in our home. So please try to attend this event. If you need any information about tickets, myself, you can ask me, Komal, or Dr. Riaz Naqvi is here, and in the ladies, you have Sister Azra Naqvi as well. With all this, I'm going to humbly request Maulana Sayyid Bilal Rizvi to please come up and recite the Majlis. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على
اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الرذوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والحيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وصاهل مخرجه. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra in particular, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The day is the 25th of Shawwal, and we've gathered to commemorate the martyrdom of that Imam after whom we name our madhab when we say we are Ja'fari. The subject of analysis tonight is none other than the biography and the seerah of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq. But before I come in towards that analysis, there are certain points of tamheed, certain introductory points. And the first point revolves around the fact that why is it the case that in many early works of history, the followers of Ahlul Bayt were referred to as Ja'fari? You see, when you look at the titles that were given towards the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we find, for example, Shiat Ali, the followers of Imam Ali, are within the works of history. We find the title Imamiyah, that they believe in the Imams, is in the works of history. You find the title Adliyah, that they believe that Adl is an external reality. Other schools of thought said that if Allah sends a person worthy of paradise into hell, then that's justice because Allah did it. But no, we said that there is a reality called justice and Adl. So they said these are Adliyah. Others said, no, these individuals, they reject those who oppose Ahlul Bayt, they're Rafidiyah and they do Rafd. But amongst all of these titles, we find the title of Ja'fariyah. You know, we are that nation that we spend our lives in the Fadail of Imam Ali and in the Masaib of Imam al-Hussein. But they did not say that they are Alawi. They didn't say they are Husaini, but they said they are Ja'fari. The first answer to this is the most simple of the answers. The most simple answer is that in the time of Imam As-Sadiq, in Medina at that time, you find each school of thought was establishing its ideological base. And each of those schools was named after their leader, and in that sense, we find that our school of thought was named after Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. The second point in relation to this, building upon this point, is that when you look in history and you look at the word Shia, you find that the word Shia has been used in three senses. The first sense is at-tashayyu al-aqaidi, that those individuals who believe that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt are designated by Allah and that their obedience is necessary, they are Shia in their aqaid. And this begins in the time period of Rasulullah. That there is a famous tradition about Surah Al-Bayyinah, a verse within Surah Al-Bayyinah which says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ. That those who believe and they act righteously, they are the best of creations. And the narrator, Amir al-Mu'mineen, asks Rasulullah that who are these khairul bariyah? The Prophet Muhammad says, Ya Ali anta wa shi'atuk. The word in the hadith is the word Shia which is used. So from the time period of Rasulullah, there was a group of individuals that believed that the Imam is mansoos min Allah. Individuals like Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, Ammar, and such individuals. So you find this is the first usage of the word Shia. The second usage of the word Shia is at-tashayyu as-siyasi. That there were many individuals, they aligned themselves to Amir al-Mu'mineen politically. They did not necessarily believe that Imam Ali was that Imam designated by Allah, but rather they found him and his family to be the better option. This begins in the time period of Uthman, it begins to develop, and after the killing of Imam al-Hussein, you find one group after another, they would claim that they are the Shia of Ali Muhammad, and they would carry out many of their personal gains, such as what the Abbasids would do to revolt against the Umayyads. But the final usage of the word tashayyu, and when it applies to Imam As-Sadiq, is that the word Shia is used as a madrasa, as a school of thought, as an ideology. You see, in Imam al-Husayn's time and Imam As-Sadiq's time, there's a big difference. In the time period of Sayyid al-Shuhada, in that earlier time period, the main issue at that time was the leadership of the ummah. That who will guide this ummah? And Imam al-Husayn says, لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشِيرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِسْلَامِ فِي أُمَّتِي جَدِّي. That I am leaving right now to bring reform in the nation of my grandfather. And time again, he would mention that what is the leader of the Muslim world? For example, he would say, مَا الْإِمَامِ إِلَّا الْعَامِلْ بِالْكِتَابِ الدَّائِمْ بِالْقِسْطِ. An Imam is an individual who follows the book of Allah, somebody who is always just, somebody who holds his nafs within the essence of God, that he's always within the remembrance of God. But in the time period of Imam As-Sadiq, you find that in addition to the challenges of the leadership of the Muslim Ummah, you began to see the question of that time was a question of ideology. That the Muslim Ummah had expanded, it had interactions with different civilizations, the people of Persia, the people of Rome, the people of Greece, and each of these different individuals would bring their own school of thought, and in that time period you find Imam As-Sadiq establishes a detailed system of belief. So from this angle you find that the term Ja'fari is used as the first answer. The second answer to this question, that why is the term Ja'fari used? When we say that we are Ja'fari, we are not negating the fact that we are also Hasani and Husaini and Kadami and Radavi and Alavi. You see, the word Nur in the Quran is always used in the singular form. whereas the word dhulamat and darkness is used in the plural form. What that goes to show is that when you go towards the path of Allah, the direction is one towards the path of Allah. But when you move away from the path of Allah, there are many different directions. You know, if you want to come to IEC HUSAINI, you can take 294, you can take Amy Trail, whatever the names of the streets are. It's been several years since I've lived here. But if you want to go away from HUSAINI, there's a million different places you can go to. The direction is the same. In that way, you find the Quran shows that Noor, which is Hidayat, is always one. And there is no contradiction in Noor with Noor, and that is why in reality, when one looks at Imam As-Sadiq or Amir al-Mu'mineen, the fadail of Amir al-Mu'mineen manifested Imam As-Sadiq, the fadail of Imam As-Sadiq manifested Amir al-Mu'mineen, that if Amir al-Mu'mineen lifts the dare of Khaybar, then this manifests the shuja'at of Imam As-Sadiq as well. So you find in that sense, all of these realities are there. So this was the first point of introduction. Now the second point of introduction is that when you look within the Quran, what does the word Sadiq mean within the Quran? You see, if I asked you that what is Sidq, many people will say that it's truthfulness. It means not to lie. Without a doubt, that is one element of Sidq. But when you look at the ayat of the Quran show that Sidq is something which is much more than even that. For example, the verse of the Quran, which I recited at the beginning of the lecture from Surah Tawbah, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. That it says, O you who believe, the first condition to be with the sadiqeen is to be sahib iman, is to have belief. Then it says, wattaqullah, next is to have taqwa. But you know the verse, after it mentions these two things, it doesn't say وَكُونُوا مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. It says وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. It says even after you've had iman, and even after you've had taqwa, you won't be from one of the sadiqeen, you will be with the sadiqeen. You see, what is the difference between ma'a in Arabic, with, and min in Arabic? Min means that you are one from amongst that group and you are within that group. But when you use the word ma'a, you are with that group but you are not within that group. So when the word ma'a is used in this ayat, it is used in the sense of a sohba and companionship. You know, there's another verse of the Quran that says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ أنعم الله من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. It says those individuals who have belief and they're with those whom Allah has blessed from amongst the prophets and the sadiqeen and the shuhada, the martyrs, and those who are righteous, these are the best of companions. So one needs to turn to the Quran and see what does the Quran say about who is considered a Sadiq personality. You find within the Quran in Surah Al-Hujurat, chapter 49, verse 15. There's a verse that says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِ. That the believers are only those individuals who believe in Allah and His Prophet. ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. After that, they don't hesitate. وَجَاهَدُوا بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And they strive with their wealth and themselves in the path of Allah. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّادِقُونَ. These individuals are Sadiq. You see, if you say that being Sadiq just means not to lie, the verse is saying a Sadiq person believes in Allah and His Prophet. A Sadiq person doesn't hesitate. A Sadiq person strives with his wealth. A Sadiq person strives with his own self in the path of Allah. So the Quran is showing that Sadiq is something which is much more than that. You know, Fakhruddin al-Razi, on the commentary of this ayat, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen, he says that when you look at all of the qualities mentioned of Sadiq within the Quran, this is showing that a Sadiq personality is the one whose inner is the same as his outer. In other words, there is no tafawut, there is no contradiction, there is no sin within that individual. He says because the verse, it says that those who believe are someone else and one who is Sadiq is someone else. And he says this ayat, it establishes that there must be a ma'soom in every time period. You know, in another verse of the Quran, Allah says, فَلَا تُطِعْ ظَالِمًا وَلَا كَفُورًا, that do not obey a person who is a dhalim, somebody who wrongs himself, and don't obey a disbeliever. But now Allah is giving a command to be with somebody who is sadiq and truthful. Allah would not command you to be with those who are sinners. This is something which is contradictory. So he says that this establishes that in every time period there must be a ma'soom. But now the question is, who is that infallible? He said that the first group that the Muslim Ummah has brought forth is that the Muslim Ummah as a whole is infallible. That when the Muslim Ummah as a whole it gathers and it gains consensus on something, then they won't make a mistake. You know, we say to them, accept the infallibility of one person, Amir al-Mu'mineen. They reject the infallibility of one person, but they're willing to accept the infallibility of the entire Ummah. You know, if you have one donkey or 100 donkeys, a donkey remains a donkey. It doesn't become an insan even if you gather 100 over there. If one person makes a mistake, 100 can make a mistake. You know, nowhere in the Quran is the majority the barometer for a haq. The Quran will say, أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. أَكْثَرُهُمْ, time and time again, that the majority, they don't believe. So if anything, the Quran is showing the opposite. So you find they said that this is the first possibility. Then he says the second possibility, according to this ayat of somebody who is Sadiq, is the ashab of Rasulullah. You know, the verse is saying unequivocally. It says, be with the Sadiqeen. It doesn't say that one Sadiq will do X, another Sadiq will do Y. In other words, if one is doing something and another is doing the something opposite, you can't follow both of them. If there is a battle of Amir al-Mu'mineen on the day of Siffin, and there are individuals on one side, and Rasul says, Al-Ammar taqtuluhu fi'atun baghiyah, that Ammar will be killed by an oppressive lot, you find that there is tafawut, there is discrepancies between the companions, they can't be the Sadiqeen. Then he says the third possibility is the Anbiya and the Prophets. The Quran over here is giving an active command. It is saying, Ya ayyuhalladina amanu ittaqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. The prophets of Allah were within the past. That means that the one who is sadiq must be present right now. And the final group, which is the only possibility, is such a group which has no contradiction. It is a group where there is one from amongst them present within this time period. It is a group that when you look at him, looking at the first of them is like looking at the last of them. And looking at the last of them is like looking at the first of them. And that is that group about whom it is stated, أَوَّلُنَا Muhammad, آخِرُنَا Muhammad, أَوْسَطُنَا Muhammad, وَكُلُّنَا Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So in light of these verses of the Quran, the title of Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad, which is given as As-Sadiq, is much more than just being truthful. It is being so infallible that in other people in that time period, when they would give a hadith from Rasulullah, they would give the entire sanad. They would say, I heard from this person, word from that person who was alive in the time period of Rasulullah. But when Imam As-Sadiq would sit on the minbar, he would say, Qala Jaddi Rasulullah, and people would listen towards what he is saying. You know, one individual, he said to the Imam, that you know, when you sit on the minbar, you say, Qala Jaddi Rasulullah, you never saw your grandfather. Imam As-Sadiq is born in the 83rd year after Hijrah. There is about 72, 73 years since the death of Rasulullah and Imam As-Sadiq. Imam As-Sadiq says to that individual, Hadithi hadithu abi, wa hadithu abi hadithu jaddi, wa hadithu jaddi hadithu al-Husain, wa hadithu al-Husain hadithu al-Hassan, wa hadithu al-Hassan hadithu Amir al-Mu'mineen, wa hadithu Amir al-Mu'mineen hadithu Rasulullah. And the words of Rasulullah have such a reality, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. And he says that my traditions in this manner are a continuous chain from my forefathers. So you find you have to be a Sadiq personality, that after 70 years you take the name of your grandfather without giving any chain, and people, they understand what you are saying. So you find this was the next point when it comes to the introduction of the Imam's biography. The final point of introduction in the biography of Imam As-Sadiq, before we come to the crux of the analysis, is that when you look in Al-Kafi, there is a very important tradition which gives us an insight in how we should analyze the seerah of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And that is that hadith which is known as Hadithul Law, the hadith of the tablet. And the narrator of this riwayah is Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he says, that one day I was with Fatima al-Zahra salamullahi alayha. When I was with Janab Zahra, I saw that there was a green tablet within her hand. And this tablet had beams of white light coming out of it. So I said to her that, what is this tablet? She said that this tablet was gifted to Rasulullah. Upon it, the names of the Imams are there, and upon it is a wasiyah for each of the Imams. This tradition, it says, that when this riwayah, when this tablet, it got to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, the words that were inscribed on it is سَيَحْلُقُ الْمُرْتَابُونَ فِي جَعْفَرٍ. Those who doubt, those who waver, those who oppose Imam As-Sadiq, those individuals will be destroyed. And then it said, أَرَّادُوا عَلَيْهِ كَرَّادِي عَلَيَّا, that the one who refutes him is like the one who has refuted I, Allah. حَقَّ الْقَوْلِ مِنِّي, that this is something which is established. Then after that it says, La ukrimanna matwa Ja'farin, that I will honor the resting place of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. In other words, upon that tablet, the fadilat of Al-Baqi and the resting place of Imam As-Sadiq is there. You see, no matter what they do to Al-Baqi, an ocean is always pure, even if there's najasat around that ocean. Even if there's filth to the left and the right, the reality of Al-Baqi is something which won't be forgotten. And they recognize that reality. You know, when they stand at Baqi and they say, Arroh, Arroh, there's nothing here. The fact that they make somebody stand to say nothing is here is proof to the fact that there is something there. And that something is something which can awaken the Muslim Ummah. So the hadith, it says, La ukrimanna matwa Ja'farin, that I will honor the resting place of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. And then it says, فَيُسَرَّنَّ, and I will make him happy, min ashya'ihi wa ansarihi wa awliya'ih, and I will make him happy with his companions, with his supporters, and those who love him. You see, when you look at Imam As-Sadiq and the seerah of Imam As-Sadiq, you find that the companions that the Imam was given were unique companions. These are those individuals that when they would record the traditions from Imam As-Sadiq, we would call them the Ashabul Ijma'. That 18 or 19 of them, the entire world upon us, has agreed that these are authentic narrators within the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. You know, an individual like Aban ibn Taghlib narrates and memorized 30,000 hadith from Imam As-Sadiq. An individual like Mohammed ibn Muslim, it's stated that Muhammad bin Muslim was a companion of both Imam Al-Baqi and Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq. Imam al-Baqi placed his hand upon the chest of Muhammad bin Muslim, and he said that expand his chest, and he says after that whatever I would hear I would remember. You know, these companions of Imam As-Sadiq, when the hadith says that the Imam will be pleased with these companions, these are such companions that when an individual like Muhammad ibn Muslim goes to Kufa, and people, they begin to be amazed with the knowledge of Muhammad bin Muslim, they say that, where did you gain this ilm? He says that I gained it from Ja'far ibn Muhammad. After that, they began to say that he is the Shia of Ja'far as-Sadiq. You know what Muhammad bin Muslim does? He begins to cry. Muhammad bin Muslim says that I am a Shia of Ja'far as-Sadiq. That where is the Imam and where is I? You see, these are those companions. Another individual like Hisham ibn al-Hakam. You know, Hisham ibn al-Hakam, the riwayah, it says that the beard had not even grown upon the face of Hisham ibn al-Hakam. And he walks into a gathering, and when he walks into a gathering, Imam As-Sadiq stands up out of respect for Hisham ibn al-Hakam. The people, they're amazed that, imagine you have the most senior, the most respected scholar, a boy who's 12, 13 years old walks in and he stands up out of ta'zeem and respect for him. They said, "Oh Imam, who is this personality?" The Imam says, "Nasiruna biyadihi wa lisanihi wa qalbih." That this is the one who is the supporter of ours with his heart, his hands, and his tongue. You see, this is that individual. That an individual comes from Sham. And he says to Imam As-Sadiq that, "Oh Imam, I want to have a munazara and a debate with you." The Imam says that if you defeat this boy over here, then you can debate me. In other words, this is the confidence the Imam has in his companions. That individual then says, "Very well, I'll debate Hisham." He begins that question. Hisham begins to question him. He says to him that, has Allah created this world with a purpose, or has He created this world in vain with no purpose? The man answers Hisham ibn al-Hakam, of course Allah has created this world with a purpose. That every single thing you see is serving a purpose. After that, the Imam, you find Hisham, he says, is that then how does Allah lead us to know what His purpose is? The man says, through the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad. He says, very well, okay, that is in the time of Rasulullah. But after the time of Rasulullah, how does Allah guide us? The man says, through the Quran and through the hadith of Rasulullah. Now over here, Hisham, when he speaks, you see he speaks very systematically. He's leading him to a dead end. Now he says to him, what is the purpose of the Quran and the hadith? He says the purpose of the Quran and the hadith is so that there is no ikhtilaf and disputes amongst the Muslim ummah, and everyone comes upon one belief. Hisham ibn al-Hakam says, was the Quran and the hadith successful in this or not? The man, he goes silent. They said to him that, why did you go silent? He says, I've come all the way from Syria because we have a difference in belief. If I say that the Quran and the hadith are enough, then we wouldn't have a difference right now. And if I say that they are enough, then that shows that this situation is false and I'm lying in this situation. You see, in this manner, Hisham ibn al-Hakam, he speaks. And in a separate occasion, he says to Imam As-Sadiq, oh Imam, when I go and I discuss with other people, oftentimes an answer, it comes in my mind which I didn't even think of. The Imam says, oh Hisham, you are the one who is speaking, but we are the ones who are giving towards you, oh Hisham. You see, you find companions like this were given to Imam As-Sadiq. Now when we come to the life of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, there are two riwayat about the birth year of Imam As-Sadiq. The mashhur riwayah, the famous narration, is the 83rd year after Hijrah. The not so famous narration is the 80th year after Hijrah, and the martyrdom year of the Imam is 148, which according to the famous narration would mean that the Imam was 65 years old at the age of his martyrdom. Imam As-Sadiq, he spends the first 13 years of his life with his grandfather Imam Zainul Abidin. It is narrated that Imam As-Sadiq, he would see the du'as that Imam Zainul Abidin would recite. He would, and he would see the interactions of Imam Zainul Abidin. You see, Imam Zainul Abidin was such a personality. It's stated that one day there was a famous Sufi of that time. His name was Abdullah ibn Mubarak. And his father Mubarak is a famous Sufi as well within the Sufi turuq, tariqas, and their spiritual chains. He sees Imam Zainul Abidin in the desert. And when he sees Imam Zainul Abidin in the desert, the Imam is walking towards Hajj with no shoes upon his feet. He has no ride, he has no camel. He has no sustenance, nothing with him. The man says to him, "Oh man, where are you coming from?" Imam As-Sajjad says, "Min Allah," that I'm coming from Allah. He says, "Where are you going?" In Allah. He says, "I'm going towards Allah." He says, "Oh man, do you not have any ride with you? Do you not have any sustenance with you?" He says, "Rahlati rijlaya," that my ride are these 2 feet of mine. Wazadi taqwaya, and that sustenance of mine is my taqwa within Allah. So when you have such a personality, you find it has an impact on Imam As-Sadiq. Then after that, Imam As-Sadiq, he spends the first 31 years of his life with his father, Imam Al-Baqi as well. And it is stated that he would travel and he would be with his father at all moments. You know, in the life of Imam Mohammed Al-Baqi, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, there is a famous narration that Hisham ibn Abdul Malik invited Imam Al-Baqi towards Syria. And Imam Al-Baqi was very aged at that time, and the narrator of this incident was Imam As-Sadiq. It goes to show that even on this journey, Imam As-Sadiq went with his father. When Imam Al-Baqi, he goes towards Syria, Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, he says that I want you to fire an arrow upon this target. You see, he knew that it was within the beliefs of the followers of Ahlul Bayt that the Imams were given skills in many different arenas. He said that this individual was aged. When he misses, then after that they would see that he has shortcomings. Imam Al-Baqi, he takes the arrow, he fires the first one right into the target. After that, he takes a second arrow and he fires the second arrow into the first one. The first one, it splits in half. At that moment, Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, he realizes that we need to get them outside of Sham and return them immediately. Imam As-Sadiq, you find, would narrate this incident, and it would goes to show that Imam As-Sadiq was with his father at every moment. Now we begin to see that as time it goes on, the imamat of Imam As-Sadiq, when it begins his period of imamat after the demise, the martyrdom of his father, Imam Muhammad Al-Baqi, there were certain important tasks that Imam As-Sadiq, he carried out. The first of those tasks is that he set the ideological foundation in detail for the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. In that way, there is no contradiction in the movement of Imam al-Husayn and the movement of Imam As-Sadiq. You see, the movement of Imam al-Husayn was resistance. The movement of Imam As-Sadiq was resistance. Over there, it was in Karbala. Over here, it was with the qalam and the pen. You know, Imam As-Sadiq had 4,000 famous students. There were other people there as well. You know, when you go to a university and you look at the faculty page of a university, you'll find that even in one faculty, there are 15, 20 professors. You know, if you take the faculty of law, you'll see 15, 20 professors, and you'll say, why do you need 15, 20? They'll say because one man can't specialize in everything. One is an expert in domestic law, one in business law, one in immigration law, one in corporate law, one in family law, one in this law. You find one man, it is very difficult to be an expert in everything. But when you go towards Medina, you see Imam As-Sadiq from fiqh towards the Quran, towards the Arabic language, towards an individual like Jabir ibn al-Hayyan al-Kufi. You know, Jabir ibn al-Hayyan al-Kufi, there are more than 3,000 treatises which are ascribed to him. And for a time, he was called the father of modern chemistry. This Jabir ibn al-Hayyan al-Kufi would say that if there is any knowledge, then I gain this knowledge from Ja'far ibn Mohammed As-Sadiq. So you find in every area, the Imam, he would spread his expertise. For example, when it came to the area of the Quran, the Imam, he carried out 3 important tasks in relation towards pondering over the Quran. The first thing the Imam would mention is that he would mention that whenever you have any of our traditions, then compare it towards the Quran. If it is in line with the Quran, accept it. If it is in contradiction towards the Quran, reject it. You find that this is one way the Imam, he would ponder and he would show the Muslim Ummah to utilize the Quran in your life. The second thing the Imam would do is the Imam would show the precision of the Arabic language within the Quran. You know, there's a narration that Zurara ibn A'yun. Zurara ibn A'yun is a very famous narrator and a companion of Imam As-Sadiq. And many of the narrations of fiqh, particularly of Hajj, they come through Zurara bin A'yun. Zurara bin A'yun was not always a follower of Ahlul Bayt. You find that he comes to this path through Imam As-Sadiq. He comes to the Imam and he says, "Oh Imam, why do you in the school of Ahlul Bayt only wipe the front portion of your head? Why do you not wipe the entire head and clean the entire head when you do wudu?" Imam As-Sadiq, he used the Quran to reply to him. He says the verse of the Quran, it says, "Ya ayyuhalladina amanu, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ." The Imam says that when you look at this verse is saying, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, that wash your face and wash your arms up to the elbow. Over here, the verb and the noun is given. فَاغْسِلُوا wujuhakum, your faces. But when it comes to the masa of the head, it says wamsahu biru'usikum. It doesn't say that wamsahu ra'usakum. This ba over here, the Imam, he tells Zurara bin A'yun is for tab'id, that it is for a portion. That in other words, you wipe a portion of your head. So in other words, the Imam over here, he is using his ilm to show the diqqah and the level of precision in the words of the Quran. The third thing the Imam would do is that whenever he would give a hadith, oftentimes he would use the Quran as a shahid, as a proof for that hadith. For example, there is one narration where the Imam says, "Man a'ta talatan u'tiya talat." That the one whom Allah gives 3 is given 3. In other words, Allah has given 3 things come with this 3. Man a'ta tawakkul u'tiya al-kifaya. That the one whom Allah gives tawakkul to is given sufficiency in life. Then the Imam uses the ayat of the Quran, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. That the one who relies upon Allah, Allah is enough. Then the Imam, he continues the hadith. He says, "Man a'ta shukr u'tiya ziyada." That the one whom Allah gives shukr, he gives him the tawfiq of thanking him, he increases within him as well. The Imam says, haven't you heard the verse of the Quran, "La in shakartum la azidannakum," that if you thank Allah, Allah will increase within you. And then the Imam says, Man a'ta dua u'tiya lijaba. That the one whom Allah gives dua to, his supplications are answered. That's what he's given with that. And the Imam uses the verse of the Quran, that the one who calls upon me, astajib lakum, that I will answer his supplication. So you see, in the area of the Quran, the Imam on one angle shows the dikka of the wordings, the precision of the wordings. But at the second level, he would use the Quran part and parcel of his life, that the Quran was something which was with him. So you find this is one area in the knowledge of the Imam. From the second level, you find that the Imam, he would train his companions to their specialities. You see, the Imam didn't give permission towards everyone to speak on every subject. For example, he would say that if you want to debate on Imama, then you go towards Hisham ibn al-Hakam. And if you want to debate on fiqh, then you go towards Zurara ibn al-A'yun. If you want to debate on Tawheed, you go to Hisham ibn Salim, for example. You know, in that time period, one individual, he comes from Ray, modern day Tehran, in that area. He comes over there, and this is that time where Imam As-Sadiq was in Kufa. Imam As-Sadiq spent 2 years in Kufa. And he was in Kufa because the first Abbasid Caliph, Abu al-Abbas as-Safa, he had ordered the Imam to move over there. In 2 years, he spends over there in Kufa. That man, when he comes towards Kufa, he says that, is there anyone who knows a hadith of Rasulullah over here? If you find such an individual, then I'll come back tomorrow. The man says, you don't have to come back tomorrow, I'll take you. When he takes that man, he says, when I go in towards Masjid al-Kufa, he says, I heard 900 people, I saw 900 people there saying, Haddathani Ja'far ibn Muhammad an Rasulullah. That Ja'far ibn Muhammad told me this narration from Rasulullah. So you see, this is that Imam. You know, in another narration, an individual comes to Imam As-Sadiq, and when he comes to the Imam, he says that, oh Imam, what was the difference in the knowledge of Musa and the knowledge of Khidr? That between them, who was more knowledgeable? The Imam, he replies by saying that Musa had knowledge of the Dhahir. He says their ilm was different. That Musa had knowledge of the Dhahir and the apparent. And Khidr had the knowledge of the Batin and the inwards. He says, oh Imam, you didn't tell me which of them was more knowledgeable. Imam As-Sadiq says, what I will say towards you, that if Musa was here and Khidr was here, both of them would be taking from me, Ja'far As-Sadiq. In other words, if you want one doorstep, that the Zahir and the apparent is found at that doorstep, and the Batin and the inward is found at that doorstep, that is the door of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq. But you know, there is an adab to come to the door of the Imam. It's stated there was a 94-year-old individual by the name of Unwan al-Basri. He comes to Imam As-Sadiq when the Imam was in Medina. And he says to the Imam, أَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ آخُذَ عَنْكَ كَمَا أَخَذْتُ عَنْ مَالِكَ. That I would love to take knowledge from you in the way that I would go towards Malik ibn al-Anas. The Imam says to him that no, لَيْسَ الْإِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. That knowledge isn't gained by learning in that sense. فَإِنِّي رَجُلٌ مَطْلُوبٌ. That I am a busy individual, just go towards Malik as you would go towards Malik. You know, that man, he says that after Imam As-Sadiq, he turned me, imagine a 94-year-old individual is coming to Imam As-Sadiq. And the Imam, he sends him back home. He says that after that, I wouldn't leave my home except for prayer time. But he says one point was that I had enough of it. So I went to the mosque of Rasulullah, and when I went to the mosque of the Prophet, I raised my hand and dua and I said, Oh Allah, an ta'tifa alayya qalb Ja'far, that make the heart of Ja'far ibn Muhammad soft for me. That in other words, he makes this dua and then the Imam later on gives him permission to come and meet him. You know what the Imam is showing over here is that the first adab, that when you come to my doorstep, do not think that my doorstep is like the doorstep of other individuals. Yes, you can take knowledge from other sources, but recognize that is a drop, this is the ocean. And there is a difference between the ocean and the drop. No, there is a difference between the teacher and the student. Because when you look in Medina at that time, all of these 4 schools of jurisprudence, all of them are related to each other. And you find that Abu Hanifa would say, Lola sanatan la halak al-Nu'man, that if it wasn't for my 2 years with Ja'far As-Sadiq, I would be destroyed. You know, one Rabi, his name was Abi Layla, he brings Abu Hanifa towards the Imam. And he says, you know, speak with him. He's a very intelligent individual. Yani huwa dhaqiyun jiddan, that he's very smart, he's very intelligent. The Imam, when he looks at Abu Hanifa, he says, أَأَنْتَ الَّذِي تَقِيسُ فِي الدِّينِ بِرَأْيِكَ? Are you that individual who uses your own analogies in the deen? You see, one important thing which Imam As-Sadiq did, which is a very important discussion in today's world, is the Imam explained what are the limits of aql and intellect in the religion and where to use aql and intellect in the religion. And that is something which is vitally important to understand. You see, what is analogy? What is this qiyas? Analogy is that when you see 2 things are similar, you say that the shariat of Allah must be the same way. That if A is like B, then the shariat is in the same manner. The Abu Hanifa, he says, yes, I do this. Imam As-Sadiq says, then tell me, O Abu Hanifa, what is a greater sin, qatl or zina? Is to kill someone greater or is zina greater? Abu Hanifa says, of course, killing somebody is greater. The Imam says, then why is it when you kill someone, you need 2 witnesses? But for zina, you need 4 witnesses. After that, the Imam then says, okay, O Abu Hanifa, you want to use your qiyas, you want to use your opinion? What is greater, salat or som? What is greater, prayer or fasting? He says, of course, prayer is greater. The Imam then says, then why is it that if a woman is menstruating, she does not have to make up her prayers, but she has to make up her fast? The Imam, he doesn't answer the what is greater, what is lesser. But after that, he says to Abu Hanifa that do not use your opinions, do not use this qiyas in the deen. Awwalu man qasa Iblis, the first to use qiyas was Iblis when he said that khalaqtani min narin wa khalaqtahu min teen, that you created me from fire and you created him from clay. So you find the Imam is going to show that. But at the same time, okay, on one end the Imam is saying that do not use your qiyas when it comes to the Sharia. But when you look within our works of hadith, the majority of the hadith about aql, they come from Imam As-Sadiq. You know, one man, he comes to Imam As-Sadiq and he says that, you know, Muawiyah is an intelligent individual. He must have a very strong aql. The Imam says that is not aql. That is something which resembles it, but it is from the works of shaitan. Then the Imam, then he says, what is aql, O Imam? The Imam says, Ma ubida bihir rahman wa maktusiba bihil jinan. That aql is that through which Allah is worshipped. And aql is that through which Jannat is acquired. You see, the Imam, what does he mean? When you look in the Quran says, reflect on this Quran. It says that be those who use your aql. But aql comes in the realm of usul ad-din. That when you are trying to establish Allah, the Prophet, in this realm there's aql, but that unrestricted aql cannot be used within the Shariat of Ahlul Bayt. Because what comes first is the nusus and the text that we are given. You know, oftentimes we see in question answer sessions, people ask, why is this halal, why is this haram? If you're asking why in the sense of a cause, the why is because Rasulullah and the Imams told us. You know, that is the why. Aqal, it takes you to a certain point. But then Imam Zainul Abidin says, Inna deen Allah la yusabu bil uqul al-naqisat. That the deen of Allah cannot be understood with these deficient intellects. So an individual at a certain point, he recognizes that yes, in these realms I'm using my intellect, but there is one maqam where even my aql must do sujood. And that is that maqam when it comes to the teachings of these individuals. Somebody like Harun al-Makki, he comes to Imam As-Sadiq. And Imam As-Sadiq says to Harun al-Makki that go in towards that oven. Harun al-Makki, he doesn't say that my aql is saying this isn't a good idea. You know, I'll burn myself, this will happen, that'll happen. No, Harun al-Makki goes, he sits within that oven. Because he recognized over here, the nas is in front of me. Over here, the sun is in front of me. This is something which is clear for me. And you find this is that reality which the Imam he gives. You know, to go into the complete seerah of the Imam, ulama have written over 40 volumes on the life of Imam As-Sadiq. And in 40 volumes, they weren't able to say that we have given the haqq to Imam As-Sadiq. But you know, there's one tradition which is often used in polemics and debates. And that is a tradition which is ascribed to Imam As-Sadiq, which is worthy of analyzing, where the Imam is alleged to have said that waladani Abu Bakr marratain, that I was born 2 times towards the first caliph. You see, when you look at this narration, from one angle, what it is alleged that it is saying, which is the case historically, is that the mother of the Imam Farwa is the daughter of Qasim, the daughter of Muhammad, the son of Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, from one side. From the other side, Farwa, the mother of Imam As-Sadiq, is the daughter of Asma, the daughter of Abdul Rahman, the son of Abi Bakr. Over here, they use this tradition to say that there is no ikhtilaf between the imams and other individuals. So the question is that how do we refute this? The first way that we refute this is that the earliest source to mention this tradition within our hadith is a scholar who passes away around the year 700 after Hijrah. And his name is Al-Arbili. And he wrote a famous book called Kashful Ghumma an Ma'rifatil A'imma, or Kashful Ghumma an Halil A'imma. Within that, he records this hadith. He was a Shia scholar, a respected Shia scholar. So they point oftentimes and they'll say that, look, this tradition is within your hadith books. But when you look at the introduction, Al-Irbili, he says, Astashhidu ghaliban an masadar al-jumhur. That within this book, I am quoting from the sources of the other Muslim factions. In other words, he is using jadal. When I discuss with a Christian, I won't say that the Quran says this. I'll say that the Bible says this. No, when Ibrahim in the Quran, when the stars it comes up, and he says to the people that this is my Lord, and then the stars it goes down, Ibrahim does not literally believe that the star was his Lord. But he says, La uhibbul afilin, I do not love that which sets. He is using a form to establish that argument. So over here, you find that this is a weak narration in our book. But now the second answer to them, they say, okay, this shows that there is a virtue for the first, and there is no issue that the Imams had with anyone else. I say you are that same school that believes there is no connection and action between a prophet and his father.
You are the same school that believes the father of Ibrahim was Azar, the one who would make the idols. No, the same school where many individuals would say that the father of Rasulullah is in Jahannam. But over here, you're using this tradition to say it is a virtue for the grandfather of Imam As-Sadiq, that at least be consistent in your methodology. That if either you accept that or you accept this isn't a virtue. So you find in that reality, this tradition, it comes up, but the mother of Imam As-Sadiq was an individual who was praised. And it was highly praised. And you find from the famous riwayat of the mother of Imam As-Sadiq is in relation to how Imam As-Sadiq would propagate the message of his grandfather, Imam Hussein. You know, have you ever thought about it, that when you go to Karbala or whenever you recite ziyarah, and you say, Assalamu alayka ya warita Adama safwatillah, or any other ziyarah, you are addressing Imam al-Hussein, but that words are from Imam As-Sadiq. This is that Imam that when it came to the azah of his grandfather, time and time again, he would emphasize the azah of his grandfather. You know, there was a munshid. A munshid would recite poetry of other individuals. And his name was Abu Harun al-Makfuf, that he was somebody who was blind. That individual, he begins to recite poetry, and the Imam begins to cry. And when the Imam cries, Abu Harun, he stops reciting. The Imam says, Oh Abu Harun, anshidni bayanan, keep reciting. Abu Harun recites. The Imam cries again. Abu Harun, he stops, he says, Anshidni bayanan. The Imam then says, Oh Abu Harun, Man anshada fil Hussein sha'ran wa abka khamseen falahul jannah. The one who recites poetry for my grandfather and 50 cry for him is paradise. Then he says, Abu Harun, no, if 40 cry. No, if 30, if 20, if 10, if one person. But then after that he says, Man anshada fil Hussein sha'ran wa baka falahul jannah. Nobody else has to cry. The one who recites that line of poetry, him himself cries falahul jannah. But no, the Imam doesn't stop the riwayah. He says, Man anshada fil Hussein sha'ran wa tabaka falahul jannah. The one who even makes the face as if he's crying for him is paradise. You know, in another narration, another reciter, Abu Ummara, he's reciting poetry. Imam As-Sadiq says, Oh Abu Ummara, aise nahi padhta hai. Abu Ummara, don't recite like this. Then he says, how should I recite? One riwayah says that Imam As-Sadiq said, Anshidni kama tunshidun ya'ni birrikka. Recite with rikka, recite with sorrow. But the other riwayah, it says, O Abu Harun, Anshidni kama tartihi inda qabr al-Hussein. You know, this is a usul for every Noha and Marthiya Khan. That when you recite the masayib of the Imam, recite as if you were by the grave of Sayyid al-Shahadat. You know, there's one ajib riwayat though. That riwayat, every other narration, the Imam says keep reciting. But there was one shair by the name of Sayyid al-Himyari. Sayyid al-Himyari recited such lines that Imam As-Sadiq said, Oh Sayyid al-Himyari, I can't handle the masayib anymore. Sayyid al-Himyari, don't recite this masayib. You know what Sayyid al-Himyari said? Umrur ala jadat al-Husayn faqul li a'dumuh az-zakiyah. Sayyid al-Himyari says that when you go towards the body of Hussein, speak to the body of Hussein. And when you speak to the body of Hussein, you know what you say? You say, A'aduban ma zilti, that, O bones, O body of Hussein, others, they water the grave with water. But when we come to your grave, we don't use water to put on your grave. It is our tears which come. But you know, this isn't that line. That line that Sayyid al-Himyari says, that Imam As-Sadiq says, stop the Masaib, is that what Sayyid al-Himyari says, that when you come to the body of al-Hussein, umrur ala qabr al-Hussein, wabki ka mu'bilatin atat yawman liwahidiha al-maniya. Sayyid al-Himyari was saying, how should you cry over Imam al-Hussein? He says, cry over Imam al-Hussein like that mother who has one child. How difficult is it for a mother to lose? Cry over Hussein like that mother who has one child on the day of the death of that child. Now if that mother is like Layla, and that child is like Ali Akbar. You know, people, they think that because the Imams had tawakkul, masaib is easier for them. No, it's not the case. The cleaner your heart is, the more love is in your heart. And the more love is within your heart, the more gham is in your heart. That's why Imam al-Hussein did certain things at the body of Ali Akbar he didn't do anywhere else. It's stated in the Maqtal, فَوَضَعَ خَدُّهُ عَلَى خَدِّهِ, that when Imam al-Hussein saw the body of Ali Akbar, he placed his cheek on the cheek of Ali Akbar. And the Imam said, "Ala dunya ba'daka al-ataya Ali Akbar." Ali Akbar, tumhare baad ye dunya khaak ho jaye Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar made this world become dust to Ali Akbar. The Imam, when he was bidding farewell to Ali Akbar, the Imam says, "Oh Akbar, you have my ijazah. But oh Ali Akbar, keep turning around so your father can do your ziyarah, Ali Akbar." Ali Akbar, he gets on the horse. Ali Akbar is leaving. But as Ali Akbar is leaving, he hears his father coming behind him. Ali Akbar says, "Baba, aapne to ijazat de di thi, Baba. Baba, you gave me permission." The Imam says, "Akbar, tum sahib aulad nahi ho, Ali Akbar." That, "Oh Ali Akbar, you don't know what it's like, oh Ali Akbar." You know, Ali Akbar, he goes to the Maqtal. Then it says, Imam al-Hussein would look at Ali Akbar, and then Layla would look at Imam al-Hussein. And when the Imam was worried, Layla would know. A point that comes, there's a worry on the face of the Imam. The Imam says, "Oh Layla, the dua of a mother for her son is mustajab, ya Layla." Layla says, "Ya Radd Yusuf ila Yaqub, wa Ismail ila Hajra, urdud alayya waladi Ali." That the one who returned Yusuf to Yaqub and Ismail to Hajra, return my Ali Akbar towards me. Ali Akbar, he comes back. He says, "Oh Father, al-atashu qad qatalani, wa thiqlu al-hadid ajhadani." That, "Oh Father, the thirst is killing me. And oh Father, this armor is hurting me." You know, on the day of Safin, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he went on towards Muhammad al-Hanafiya, and he began pouring water on the armor of Muhammad al-Hanafiya. And they said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Why are you doing this?" The Imam says that it is a hot day. I don't want the armor of Muhammad al-Hanafiya to burn. I say, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, look at your Hussein in front of Ali Akbar." Ali Akbar is not asking for water on his armor. He is asking for water to drink. Your Hussein doesn't have water for Ali Akbar. The Imam says, oh Akbar, your grandfather Rasulullah will give you from the pool of Kauthar, ya Ali Akbar. You know, Ali Akbar, he goes for the final time. And as Ali Akbar is fighting appointed Khans, فَقَتَلُوهُ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. From all sides they surround Ali Akbar. One arrow goes into the chest of Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar falls to the ground. You know, Ali Akbar didn't ask Imam al-Husain for help when he fell. Ali Akbar, he bids farewell to his father. Some riwayat, they say, on his elbows, you know, when Ibrahim was told to slaughter Ismail, Ismail said, Baba, I'll turn my face away on the ground. Oh Baba, a father shouldn't have to see his son in such a state. But I say, oh Ibrahim, look at Hussain in Karbala. That Imam al-Husaini goes to the body of Ali Akbar. فَوَضَعَ خَدُّهُ عَلَى خَدِّهِ. He places his cheek on the cheek of Ali Akbar. He places one hand on the chest of Ali Akbar. He places one hand on the arrow. He begins to take the arrow. He says, Inna lillah. He looks towards Najaf. He says, oh Baba, the door of Khaybar was easy. Look at Hussain. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-dhalimeen. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain.
حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا دے دیا منصور نے صادق کو زہر دے دیا منصور نے صادق کو زہر شأن کی دنیا سے قضا ہائے شأن کی دنیا سے قضا ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ قضا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا آج ہوئے موسی کاظم یتیم آج ہوئے موسی کاظم یتیم باپ کا صدمہ ہے بڑا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا حال یتیموں کا ہے غم سے تباہ حال یتیموں کا ہے غم سے تباہ کرتے ہیں سب آہ و بکا کرتے ہیں سب ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہائے گھر ہوا ویران مدینہ لٹا گر ہوا ویران مدینہ لٹا رعنما قتل ہوا رعنما قتل ہوا حشر ہے عالم میں بپا حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا آج ہوئے موسی کاظم یتیم آج ہوئے موسی کاظم یتیم باپ کا صدمہ ہے بڑا باپ کا صدمہ ہے بڑا حشر ہے عالم میں بپا حشر ہے عالم میں بپا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا ہو گئی جعفر پہ جفا
داماد لیے ہیں خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہیں خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہیں خلد کی دامان کربلا خون شہید حق پہ بڑی شان کربلا عظمت لیے ہیں خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہیں خلد کی دامان کربلا انداز کہہ رہے ہیں یہ زینب کے لال کے انداز کہہ رہے تھے یہ زینب کے لال کے جانے نہ دیں گے ہاتھ سے میدان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے خلد کی دامان کربلا حیدر کا لال غیظ میں آیا ہے نہر پر حیدر کا لال غیظ میں آیا ہے نہر پر چھلکے گا آج خون سے میدان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا اسلام کی رگوں میں رواں ہے تیرا لہو اسلام کی رگوں میں رواں ہے تیرا لہو اے بے زبان اصغر نادان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے خلد کی دامان کربلا اٹھو لبے فرات سے عباس باوفا اٹھو لبے فرات سے عباس باوفا تنہا گرے ہیں فوج میں سلطان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا ہنس کر گلا بڑھا دیا ناوا کے سامنے ہنس کر گلا بڑھا دیا ناوا کے سامنے دیکھے زمانہ جرت نادان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے ہے خلد کی دامان کربلا جلتی زمین پہ میت شبیر تھی پڑی جلتی زمین پہ میت شبیر تھی پڑی جاتے تھے ایک سمت اسیران کربلا عظمت لیے خلد کی دامان کربلا عظمت لیے خلد کی دامان کربلا
Hussain, Ya 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 Hussain, Hussain, Ya 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 Hussain, Hussain, Ya 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 Hussain, Hussain, Ya 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 Hussain, کے پلانے والے، تر سے پانی کو جو کو تر کے پلانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے، آل محمد کے گھرانے، بولی زینب کی سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے پانی تک تو نے نہ مانگا میرے مظلوم حسین پانی تک تو نے نہ مانگا میرے مظلوم حسین میں وہ خنجر سے پیا اپنی بجھانے والے گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے پانی تک تو لینا مانگا میرے مظلوم حسین پانی تک تو لینا مانگا میرے مظلوم حسین میں وہ خنجر سے پیا اپنی بجھانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے سب پڑھے نام مولا گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے سارا کہتی بخش والوں کی انہیں محشر میں سارا کہتی بخش والوں کی انہیں محشر میں جو میرے لال پہ آنسو ہے بہانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے سارا کہتی بخش والوں کی انہیں محشر میں سارا کہتی بخش والوں کی انہیں محشر میں جو میرے لال پہ آنسو ہے بہانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے ہو گئی شام لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے۔ بولی زینب وہ گری خاک پہ تصویر رسول، بولی زینب وہ گری خاک پہ تصویر رسول، قلب سے یاد بنا نہ کے دلانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے۔ سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے، سر سے پانی کو جو کو سر کے پلانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے۔ رو کے کہتی تھی سکینہ میرے چاچا ہو کہاں، رو کے کہتی تھی سکینہ میرے چاچا ہو کہاں، لوٹ کر آئے نہیں پانی پلانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے، لٹ گئے آل محمد کے گھرانے والے۔ رو کے کہتی تھی سکینہ میرے چاچا ہو کہاں، رو کے کہتی تھی سکینہ میرے چاچا ہو کہاں، لوٹ کر آئے نہیں پانی پلانے۔ یا حسین 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 یا
متوجہ زیارت۔ السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا نبی اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا خاتم الانبیاء، السلام علیکہ یا باعث الہدی ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکہ یا ابن محمد المصطفیٰ، السلام علیکہ یا ابن امیر المومنین علی ولی اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا ابن فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکہ یا شہید بکربلا، روحی و جسمی لک الفدا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکہ یا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکہ یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام علیکہ یا شمس الشموس ایہا المدفون بأرض توس، یا سلطان العرب والعجم، یا علی ابن موسی الرضا، الراضي بالقدر والقضاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا باب الإيمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك يا إمام زماننا. هذا عجل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته. دعاء إمام زمانہ. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم کل ولیک الحجت ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی